All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a book that pretty much flipped the entire startup world on its head, The Lean Startup by Ries. It's a whole new way of thinking about how to build a business from the ground up. So, to really get this, we've got to start with a story. And honestly, it's a story about a massive failure. Let's rewind the clock to 2004 and a little startup you've probably never heard of called IMVU.
Okay, put yourself in their shoes for a second. You and your team, you are grinding it out for 6 straight months. I mean, pouring everything you have into this amazing, revolutionary 3D avatar product. Launch day comes, you're bracing for the floodgates to open, and you get crickets. Nothing. Not a single download.
And see, they were so sure they had a winner. They spent all this time, all this effort, meticulously integrating their avatars with AOL Messenger, MSN Messenger, all the big players back then. They were 100% convinced that this was exactly what people were waiting for.
But here's the kicker. It turns out their biggest, most fundamental assumptions were completely wrong. Dead wrong. People didn't want to use it with their existing friends. What they actually wanted was a whole new place to meet and chat with total strangers. Which means, yeah, you guessed it, all those months of painstaking integration work, a total, complete waste of time.
So you can imagine how crushing that must have been. But for the founder, Ries, this disaster led to this huge aha moment. He realized the problem wasn't the product itself, it was the way they built it. Their whole approach was just broken.
And this right here is the absolute core idea of the lean startup. It's a total shift in thinking. The old way was all about having a perfect plan and executing it flawlessly. But the new way, it's not about executing, it's about learning. Learning as fast as you possibly can what your customers actually want, not what you think they want.
Okay, so if the name of the game is learning, how do you do that without, wasting another 6 months building something nobody wants? Well, Ries' answer is a concept you've probably heard of. It's called the minimum viable product, or MVP. Now, this is super important. An MVP is not just a clunky, stripped-down version of your final product. That is a huge misconception. The best way to think about it is like a science experiment. Its entire reason for existing is to test one specific idea, one assumption, and to see if you're on the right track. And the story of Zappos is maybe the most perfect example of this ever. Before the founder, Nick Swinmurn, even thought about buying a single shoelace or renting a warehouse, he had to answer one massive make-or-break question. Would people really buy shoes online, without even trying them on? So what did he do? He didn't build an e-commerce empire. He ran a super simple test. He went to local shoe stores, took pictures of their shoes, and put them up on a basic website. If someone ordered a pair, he'd literally run back to the store, buy the shoes at full price, and ship them himself. It was completely manual, but it proved the one thing he needed to know. People were willing to pay. And when the orders started coming in so fast he couldn't keep up, boom, that was all the proof he needed. See, this isn't just about random experiments. There's a method to the madness. It's a really clear, repeatable process for figuring out if your idea has legs. It's a cycle, a feedback loop called build, measure, learn. And this loop is the engine of the lean startup. You start with an idea, you figure out the riskiest part. You build a tiny experiment, your MVP, to test it. Then you measure what happens, learn from it, and decide what to do next. The whole point is to go through this cycle as fast as humanly possible, so you don't waste time building stuff nobody cares about. And when we say build an MVP, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to write a bunch of code. Not at all. There are actually some really clever, low-tech ways to do this, depending on what exactly you need to learn. So that Zappos test, that's what you'd call a concierge MVP. It's all manual, all hands-on behind the scenes, but for the 1 or 2 customers you have, it feels like a real white glove service. On the other hand, you've got something called a smokescreen MVP. This one is all about creating the illusion of a working product, just to see if people would actually bite before you spend a dime building it. A great example of a smokescreen is the card game Exploding Kittens. Before they printed a single card, what did they do? They put up a Kickstarter page with a really simple, hilarious video that just explained the game. That's it. No product, just a video and a web page. And the result? They raised over $8 million in pre-orders. Think about that. That's not a focus group saying, oh yeah, I'd probably buy that. That's cold, hard cash. It's the ultimate proof that yes, people absolutely wanted what they were selling. Okay, so let's circle back to our original story. What happened to IMVU? After that spectacular 6-month flameout, did they just pack it in and go home? Nope, not at all. Instead, they completely threw out their old way of doing things. They adopted this new learn first approach. No more 6 months death marches. Instead, they started running tiny little experiments, constantly testing ideas, and actually talking to their customers to see what was working. And by doing that, by pivoting away from that failed first idea but persevering with this new process, IMVU eventually grew into a $50 million business. That initial failure wasn't the end. It was actually the thing that set them up for their eventual success.
And that's really the whole point. Eric Ries puts it perfectly. This whole process, it's not just about being faster or cheaper. When you make a change, a pivot, based on real hard data from your customers, everything you do after that pivot becomes way more effective. You stop wasting your time and start building things that actually matter. So, when you boil it all down, the biggest lesson from the Lean Startup is this huge shift in the questions you ask. It's not about asking, can we build this? Technology can build almost anything these days. The real question, the one that matters, is should we build this? And even better, what's the fastest, cheapest way to find out if we should build this? So that leaves you with one question to think about for your own ideas. What's the single biggest, riskiest assumption you're making? And how can you test it right now?